Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be talking about a subject that is very, very sad and hard to speak about. The show will have a lot of graphics in it. I will not avoid the reality and start sugarcoating things. But on the other hand, we all know what the score is. I see no reason to get overly graphic. Men are getting raped all over the world. The men, the boys, who are you going to call? Who is a national agency of the United Nations? There are sex scandals involving the UN as well. There's been UN cases of sex trafficking scandals reported in Bosnia and Kosovo, as well as notoriously ignoring the sex rings organized in Haiti. The UN's violence against civilians doesn't end with rape and sex crimes. It's all over. The UN peacekeepers have indiscriminately killed and injured civilians in Somalia and the Congo. What is going on? From bus drivers in Pakistan having boys ride on those buses so they can be available for rape, boys hanging out at those bus terminals so they can be trafficked. All through the US military, boys and men are getting raped. Why is this? Because we have a culture of rape with no laws to protect it. Imagine that. Just imagine that. No laws to protect the men. Well, I don't have enough time today to get into the Boy and Girl Scouts of America, which may end up being a bigger crime than that Catholic Church, but so much time, so many crimes, only me here, so I will focus today and I will get back later with the children involved in the Boy and Girl Scouts of America. That story is fascinating. I believe it was organized and it came out of it flourished into different things, like those Hitler Youth. Yes, that is what happened with the Boy and Girl Scouts. How it got founded is fascinating, but no time for today. It's all about our attitude towards males being raped. We seem to think some people can't be raped, or maybe some people deserve rape. Like maybe a rape victim grows up and they get raped as an adult, and people think they've always had an issue with things and attracted the wrong kind. Did you hear me? We have this attitude that the victim is the one who attracted the wrong kind. Think about how we're saying these. Look at the words we're using. There have been a few studies in the past that most prostitutes have a history of child abuse. I am now convinced that most prostitutes we see on the streets in this country are actually sex trafficking victims. And yes, that includes the boys. A man traveling with a boy doesn't grab much attention now, does it? A man traveling with a young girl, lots of eyes on that activity, right? One theory is that people who are molested have their sexual moral compass thrown off kilter. I believe it causes such unrecognized by society's damage that it is hard to express. No one knows the overall damage. They do know that prostitutes with a history of child abuse, 73% of them, pretty high numbers, right? Those are one of the few numbers that they actually know about it. It is the plan, not the bug in the system, for us to ignore this huge topic of male rape. So let's take a look at it today. I don't know much. I don't know much at all. And I'm very ashamed to say that no one knows much, but I have taken the time and I have looked at it all. So for today, I'm going to be talking about some of the psychological effects of male rape. And I found a couple of clips that express that very well. There is a movie that came out on Netflix, and I got a link to it. It is well, I watched it yesterday. I gotta say, The state of this country is pretty horrifying. The movie is called Tell Them You Love Me from 2023. That was about a woman who raped a severely mentally handicapped young boy. Somehow, high class, low class, all classes are raping children. I will be playing a couple of clips that explain how this may be playing out because we seem to view sexual assault against men as something funny. They've been putting it in movies, getting us to laugh about it. I also have a clip about Catholic nuns accused of sexual misconduct. Yes, the nuns, the priests, the boys don't seem to be getting a break. So, one last clip is Out of Darkness into the Light. It's a group of people talking about their stories about sexual abuse as children and how talking about it set them free. That clip will be down below if you choose to listen to it. The issue at hand is no one is talky about this stuff. We need to open this conversation. It is a critical conversation. And in the future, when things start to get locked down and people are trapped in custody, well, what about the males, the boys who are going to be trapped with men who are now abusing them? I have looked at it all. Prison rape in this country, off the charts. There are no ways for the males to get any kind of help. They undergo horrific male rape during prison. They have it set up so that, for example, here's how it works. Let's say they put a young boy in a jail cell with a big, huge inmate, right? That inmate starts to rape that young boy. Well, do prison guards stop them? Well, what stops them is this. They claim that if that prisoner is holding a weapon against that boy while they're raping them, seriously, people will then stand around and watch for that child to be raped because regulations in the prison say, well, you can't risk your own life. So if the inmate has a weapon and they're using that weapon against the other inmate, you do not interfere. So basically, that victim will continue being raped, and then in the end, they just grab that person and then send them off to solitary or some other kind of minimal way for their actions. It is beyond alarming, okay? And only recently have some other forms of sexual violence against men been considered. It's only right now being considered as a problem. Male on male rape has been heavily stigmatized. People seem to feel like men should be able to protect themselves. Well, you really can't protect yourself as a male or a female when someone slips a drug into your drink when you're out at a club and then proceeds to rape you. Here you are, a regular person out for a night on the town. You're a man. You've done well in your career. Somebody slips you something in your drink. Then they proceed to violently rape you. Well, when you wake up in your apartment or your house all alone after being raped, what exactly do you think you're going to do? Most males do not report because there is no safety net for them. There is very little safety net for the women, but for the males, don't count on it. Have you ever seen a shelter for males abused by sex? Of course not. I read about a couple. I read about one that was being opened in Texas somewhere. Oh, I don't know. I think they were going to have about 10 beds for male victims, 10 beds in the state of Texas. I read about that a couple years ago. So if you're a man and you get raped, where are you going to go? Well, you're not going to go anywhere because people are going to then laugh at you because people think in this culture that it is funny fun and games. Let's put it this way. What is being done is without anyone's consent. So focus on the consent aspect of all of this. These victims have not consented. No child can consent of rape. No grown man can consent to rape when he's being held down or drugged and then being raped. That does not involve consent. In our male-dominated culture, men do not want to accept their role as victims, and so they haven't been doing any studies. I believe it's not because of that. I believe it's because it's about breaking down the men. How else do you break down a society? We're in a eugenics plan right now. You gotta separate the men from the women, get them to hate each other. And another way to get this ball rolling is rape the men. So then the men aren't exactly going to be, well, let's say the men aren't going to be so likely to be open because of all of the shame that goes along with being raped as a man, even though they had nothing to do with what happened. We need to learn to figure out who is the victim and who is the perpetrator. Anybody being touched, physically handled, or maneuvered into sex acts is the victim in this picture. There is nothing there. For example, there was this thing called the Sexual Offenses Act of 1956. It was updated in 1994. 1994, it was updated. There were some changes made in 2003. But changes made doesn't mean we have all moved forward, right? Male rape is more commonly committed by heterosexual men. People think, oh, yeah, it's all those gay people. That is what they want you to think. So heterosexual men are the ones that they know of now doing the rape, but there's also female perpetrators. And they said that female perpetrators may be up to 40% of sexual assaults on men. So men are getting raped primarily by other men. So, in Europe, there is no robust data on the prevalence of rape or other sexual offenses on men. Male rape did not exist in the eyes of UK law until 1994. Before this, male rape was classified as indecent assault. I hope you're as alarmed about this as I am. In the U.S. alone, it is estimated that an average of 360,000 males are assaulted behind bars each year, and at least 2/3 are repeatedly raped and often gang raped on almost a daily basis. This is going on. Nothing is hiding. In a lecture at Columbia University, a person said, no one cares what happens to a prisoner. Everyone has the attitude that prisoners complain too much and have unreal expectations in wanting to live as a human being, that we somehow deserve all that happens to us. So, people's attitudes need to be focused on the truth. You might change your attitude if you know what's really going on. None of these people deserve to get raped beyond. Let me leave that alone. Let me leave that alone. This is without consent. Just remember that part, okay? And remember the other part. We have a habit of judging others based on something we see or think we know. Let's try to stick with the facts. Let's not look at the next person we see, the next man we see, and think, ha, why didn't he defend himself? What kind of man is he? All of those are not the right kind of questions to be asking. We need to understand first how big this problem is. Most of the people that are getting raped are heterosexual men. They're also boys. None of this has been done with their consent. There are no laws to protect them. The only way that we're going to be able to help them while we're coming through this final stages of this game board is to be aware. And if there's anything any one of us can do, if you find that you know somebody or run across somebody that has been a victim of rape, the best we can do is to be present. Listen to their story. And by listen, I mean completely listen. Don't cut in and say, well, but a victim is a victim. We need to allow them to come forward and give them the space to speak to the rest of us because, yes, speaking will, in a lot of ways, help these victims start to deal with what they're dealing with, the huge trauma they're dealing with. They're blaming themselves. They're saying to themselves, why didn't I make this stop? The other thing that's happening is these children are saying the exact same thing. If only one person had heard my story. How about if we start hearing their stories? It is so huge amongst us. Let's put this on our radar. These are other people in our tribe. They belong to the rest of us. Let's not continue to allow them to be treated this way. Solidarity for them. Be safe out there and goodbye for now.
I enlisted in the United States Army when I was 17. I started my military career in January of '86, where I was in training. And one night, members of my own squad attacked me while I was in my sleep. And I was beaten and tortured and raped by them. So we had a real hard day of training. It was right around the third or the fourth week of basic. It was snowing that night, and I remember being so tired and it being so late, and all I wanted to do was hit the rack. So I got my boots off, and I figured I'd, sleep for another night, get up in the morning, do it all again. Just got to make it through. You got to make a difference. And next thing I know, I should be sleeping, and something's wet, and it sounds like rain. And then I feel pain. Something's hitting me. Somebody's hitting me, and I'm fighting, and I can't see anything. It's dark, and I'm getting rained on, and I'm fighting and getting hit more and more. And I can see by the moonlight, and I can see that my squad's around me, and they've been holding me down with a blanket, and I'm trying to fight my way out of it. And as you're doing it, you're realizing it's not a dream. And I'm getting hit. I'm getting hit everywhere. I'm getting hit in the face a lot. But I can feel a lot of pain, and it's wet, and it's scary, very scary. And I'm trying to get out of my bunk. I'm trying to fight, and I'm getting hit, and I'm getting hit in the face, and everything goes black. And next thing I remember, I'm in the room across the hall, and I'm trying to run for the window, but I'm running in the wrong direction. I'm not running towards the stairs. I'm running towards the latrine. But that's the direction I'm going, and they're on me again, and they dragged me into the bathroom, and they're hitting me, and I could see them all around me, just yelling, "Kill him! Hit him again. Kill him. And I'm trying to get away from it, but I don't even feel like I can pull away. I don't even feel like there's anywhere to run anymore. I'm just getting hit over and over again, and I'm just screaming for him to stop. And it's just like it's some kind of big show for him. And then everything went black again. And I remember right before it all disappeared, I thought, I'm gonna die here. They're gonna beat me to death in the latrine. After my squad tortured me and raped me, and the doctor wouldn't even listen, and I had to be back in the middle of it, I became born again hard. That's what they want, right? And if I'm the craziest motherfucker, then they gotta think they better leave me alone, because I gotta sleep in the same room with them. So, you name it. Pop that grenade, hold on to it till it almost blows you in pieces before you throw it. Hang from the top of that frickin' obstacle and just look at the end. Born again hard. They want you to be a killer. I'm their killer. That's what I became, because I'm not safe, and either I'm gonna go ahead and get that early relief and I'm finally gonna die, or they're just gonna be too scared to touch me again. And that's the way it was. I'm sure they were really, really, really happy. They got plenty of flags. They got plenty of good write-ups. I'm sure you did a good job as far as you're concerned. Congratulations, U.S. Army.
This episode comes with a very strong content warning for frank discussions of and media clips involving rape and sexual harassment. There's a surprisingly disturbing trend running through a lot of mass media entertainment, a trend that often flies under the radar. Let me explain. You're watching a popular TV show or movie, laughing along at the hijinks, when suddenly things take a jarring turn.
Check out the new meat. I'm gonna slather you up in Navi and jelly. Go to town.
Wait a minute. Was that a rape joke?
I'm gonna slather you up in Navi and jelly. Go to town.
Yep, certainly was.
This one here's our booty.
Maybe it's just an anomaly.
This doesn't end with us riding into the sunset. It ends with me dying of cancer and you winning the Icebox Award for softest mouth.
Hold up. That's another rape joke. In another superhero blockbuster. Let's try something else.
Don't drop the soap, big homie.
Ugh.
Where will you be watching the world consume me from? That's right. A prison cell. I'll send you a bar of soap.
How about we try a comedy instead?
Relax and open wide.
What are you doing?
Oh, dude! That went on my ass!
Yikes. Let's switch to a TV show.
As soon as you drop the soap, they rape your butt. That's what happens. No! Stop! I'm saying no!
Bieber was briefly jailed early this morning. He went to jail early this morning, and the police report described him as 5'9" and 140 pounds. Or as his cellmate put it, just right.
You've likely noticed the pattern here. In each case, sexual assault is played for laughs, and in each case, the targets of the joke are men.
You know, he's like a bite-sized Snickers. Yeah. Fun size.
Comedic scenarios involving the sexual abuse of men can include a wide range of behavior.
Now we'll do your inseam.
From casual punchlines about unwanted kissing or touching, to gratuitous one-liners about anal rape.
They will turn your butthole into a parking garage. Start putting all kind of cars in there, man. Buicks, Cutlass Sierras, Oldsmobiles. Somebody gonna put a Hummer in there.
Yeah, now don't bite down. Don't bite down.
It's hard to overstate just how common jokes about men being sexually assaulted are. Most popular comedic actors and their writers engage in this type of humor.
I can't go to jail. Look at me. I'll get raped like crazy. Fuck, you too? Yeah, totally.
I'd get raped just as much as you would.
No, I know you would. Of course you would.
You think you're more rapeable than I am?
Hey, Nick, I'm not saying anything like that, okay?
You're pretty close to saying.
Statistically speaking, men are far more likely to be the perpetrators of sexual violence than are people of any other gender. And so that's what we'll be focusing on in this video. We'll examine media in which women are portrayed as perpetrators in a future episode.
He's the one who famously said, "I'd take a bullet for Donald Trump." Well, now that he's looking at prison time, we'll see if he's willing to take a dick.
Sexual assault of men as comedy is so ubiquitous and so normalized that you may not have even noticed it shows up everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere, even at the Oscars.
And why does a prisoner drop the soap? 'Cause no one wants to do it alone.
Speaking of songs about male rape, there seem to be an awful lot of them.
Hands against the prison wall, choking on a mouthful of balls.
He gonna make you his sex slave. You're gonna gargle mayonnaise.
You pin me down and I try to fight you. You come inside me. Whoa, 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 whoa.
The sexual assault of men is a go-to joke for many popular animated sitcoms.
Rick and Morty go to giant prison. You know, if somebody drops the soap, it's gonna land on our heads and crush our spines, Morty. You know, it'll be really easy to rape us after that.
Yeah, get his pants down. Get his pants down. No, stop. Rape!
What do you collect, Vaseline? Oh.
Okay, let's do it.
What? Ah! No, Jake, not like this. Ah!
Because while you slept, I violated you repeatedly.
You might be surprised to find out that slightly less explicit variations on these jokes also show up in children's media with alarming regularity.
This is never going to work. Of course it will. You look very pretty.
That's what they'll say in jail.
Love is in the air. Can't you just smell it?
Did you see what that bear just did to that guy's cherry?
You got any idea what they do to eggs in San Ricardo prison? It ain't over easy.
Notice how these jokes are all designed to demean, humiliate, or emasculate a male character for being the victim, or potential victim of sexual violence. The Me Too movement has brought to light the rampant sexual abuse perpetrated by powerful men in Hollywood. While many of those telling their stories have been famous women, there are also a handful of male celebrities coming forward as survivors, including actors Anthony Rapp and Terry Crews. Crews has been especially vocal, even testifying about his experience in front of Congress in support of the Survivors' Bill of Rights, where he stressed that sexual assault isn't really about sex, it's about power.
I was sexually assaulted by a successful Hollywood agent. The assault lasted only minutes, but what he was effectively telling me while he held my genitals in his hand was that he held the power, that he was in control.
Since coming forward, Terry Crews has faced a good deal of backlash from other straight men. And it's no coincidence that much of the ridicule directed at him bears an uncanny resemblance to the punchlines we're discussing in this video.
This is how toxic masculinity permeates culture. As I shared my story, I was told over and over that this was not abuse, that this was just a joke.
As with all comedy, it's important to ask who or what is being targeted by the joke. So let's take a few examples from popular mainstream comedies and talk about what we're meant to be laughing at and why. Because it's the why that helps illuminate how underlying messages can have a negative impact on the way we think about assault and masculinity.
I want a proctologist standing by. Best one you can find.
In the 2015 comedy Get Hard, Will Ferrell plays a wealthy hedge fund manager who finds out he's going to prison for embezzlement. The core premise of the movie is that Ferrell's character is terrified of being raped in prison.
There's a 100% chance that you're gonna be somebody's bitch.
Kevin Hart's character exploits that panic to get hired as a toughness coach to help prepare him for life on the inside. This setup, as you might imagine, leads to a steady stream of rape jokes.
You know what that is? That's a big-ass black man on your pale white ass. You? No, I don't want any more. Stop. That's enough. Too late. He done tagged the next guy in.
At the heart of these jokes is the perceived emasculation of men who are scared of, or become emotional over, the possibility of sexual assault.
Hey, listen up, everyone. I'm extremely sad. Please don't sexually assault me. I'm already too sad. Hey, fellas, my heart's already been raped.
Get Hard is just one of many, many examples where male characters on the receiving end of sexual assault jokes are framed as weak, cowardly, effeminate, or unmanly.
I'm scared.
Kenny, stop crying. Stop crying, Kenny. Look at me. Yes, show me a mean face, Kenny.
Men's vulnerability is an endless source of mockery in mainstream comedy. And vulnerability that results from sexual violence is no exception.
Okay, she's like, I don't want to go to jail. You know what happens to a handsome guy like me in jail? It rhymes with grape. It rhymes with grape.
Just keep your mouth shut and try not to cry.
It's all right to cry. Crying takes the sad out of you.
The idea behind the joke here is as obvious as it is toxic. That men who aren't tough or manly enough to avoid being victimized are pathetic, and therefore deserving of ridicule, or worse.
Hey guys, do you think he's anyone's girlfriend yet?
Queso, he's been in jail for 3 hours. Of course he's someone's girlfriend.
Punchlines about men being sexually assaulted usually revolve around the idea of a man being made subordinate to another man, and therefore forced into a role that is stereotypically feminine.
I'm, never gonna be the same.
Emasculation jokes are supposed to be funny because, in a patriarchal culture like ours, we're meant to think that there is no greater humiliation for a man than to be treated like a woman. We'll talk extensively about the 2005 hit comedy Wedding Crashers in part 2 of this video series. But the movie deserves a mention here as well because of how it frames one of several sexual assaults committed against Vince Vaughn's character. The basic setup is that Vaughn, as our lovable chauvinist, suddenly has the tables turned on him.
Jesus Christ. Not there. Not there. I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable with that.
Let's play dummy sticks.
What's dummy sticks? I don't want to play dummy sticks. I don't want to play dummy sticks.
It's your typical gross-out comedy scenario, designed to make audiences laugh squeamishly at seeing straight male characters thrust into awkward sexual situations with other men.
So gross!
There's an underlying homophobia running through scenes like this,
Hide. You gotta hide.
which is connected to some extreme levels of anxiety around straight male sexuality.
This is no dream. This is really happening.
I'll pop out at the right moment.
No, you will not.
The insinuation is that if a man is sexually harassed by another man,
Don't do that, Jesus Christ. You're gonna get me killed.
it means he's perceived as gay.
Oh, Billy.
And being perceived as gay is supposed to be deeply humiliating for straight men.
Get down on your knees and open your mouth.
All the guards in Guantanamo were gay.
Ain't nothing gay about getting your dick sucked. You're the ones that's gay for sucking my dick.
I will report you. You will go to jail, or you won't have to pretend to be gay because your asses will be busier than a test bench in a plunger factory.
Despite what media may tell us, it's critical to remember that being sexually assaulted has absolutely nothing to do with someone's sexuality.
Pardon me.
Just as it has nothing to do with their masculinity.
Mi scusi. Mi scusi.
If the perpetrator is coded as a gay man, or a character of ambiguous sexual identity, then sexual assault is usually framed as a product of some uncontrollable sexual desire.
I'm still horny.
Which then works to demonize gay men by directly linking them to predatory behavior.
I have a question. Are you single?
I'm not gay.
I don't care. You're hunky and I'm what they call predatory gay.
It's made worse if, as is often the case, the rapist is the only gay-coded character in the whole production.
I have to make certain that you're not armed.
All of this contributes to the long-running pattern in Hollywood where gay sexuality is framed as a clear and present danger to straight people, which it isn't. Queer sexuality is not a threat to straight people. Rapists are a threat to straight people, just as they are a threat to people of all genders and all sexualities. In 2016, the meta-ironic superhero movie Deadpool, starring Ryan Reynolds, became the highest-grossing R-rated film in history. And one of its opening scenes provides us with a good example of another common media pattern: the scared straight style rape joke.
Wait. Leave it, Brooke, in her general direction again, and you will learn in the worst of ways that I have some hard spots, too. That came out wrong.
The punchline here revolves around a male superhero weaponizing the performance of an ambiguous queer sexuality as a form of intimidation. The joke comes from the same place as the overprotective father freakout.
Whatever you do to my daughter, I do to you.
Now you guys have a good time.
You ever made love to a man? No. You want to?
No, sir.
Scenes like this end up accidentally illustrating an important point, because it's not just the act of sexual assault itself that functions as an instrument of domination and control in our culture.
Get in.
It's also the threat of sexual assault.
You know what turned out means?
No, sir.
It's when a straight dude rolls into prison and gets his ass fucked, then becomes a girl. Big boys will come in, push a little boy like you down, maybe stick a textbook in your mouth and go to fucking town. You want that to happen to you?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Sexual assault is, in many ways, simply another form of violence. And leveraging the threat of that violence as a deterrent to keep young men and boys in line is a frequent theme in media.
Boy, you better keep your damn mouth shut, or you're gonna be going back to the showers. And the only speed you're gonna reach is 88 dudes per hour.
You've probably noticed by now that a lot of this comedy has something in common. It involves prison rape. Prison rape jokes are so pervasive in mass media entertainment that the phrase, "don't drop the soap," has become a routine sight gag. Despite the insinuation of anal rape, "don't drop the soap" punchlines have also found their way into children's cartoons.
Word of advice, don't drop the soap.
Doubloons! Don't drop them.
One of the reasons these rape jokes pass under the radar is because for straight adult men of able body and mind, the possibility of being sexually assaulted isn't a real concern in their everyday lives. The one exception to that, and it's a big one, are straight adult men who are incarcerated. Prison rape is a rampant, horrifying problem that destroys lives. Each year, over 200,000 people are raped or sexually assaulted while imprisoned in the United States. It is important to remember that just like on the outside, sexual assault in prison should not be confused with consensual sex between prisoners.
Do you know what they do to soft, bald, overweight Republicans in prison, Ernest?
While the vast majority of the comedy we've been looking at invokes the rape of straight men, in reality it's queer and transgendered prisoners who are most likely to be the targets of sexual assault in prison. Many prison rape jokes also carry with them some explicit racist overtones. It's no accident that punchlines regularly involve white men being threatened with rape by a big scary black man.
So I got me a volunteer, huh? Well, let me tell you, Cupcakes, what your first day up in here gonna be like! And don't expect no flowers afterwards.
Scenes like this one are built around the racist idea that black men are more brutal, aggressive, or predatory than other men. And that therefore it's black men specifically who pose a special threat to white men's masculinity.
So what's a beautiful white boy like you doing in a place like this?
Terry Crews's story about being sexually assaulted is so powerful because it disrupts that scary, intimidating black man narrative. Before his personal evolution, some of those scary characters were even played by Cruise himself. To see him now choosing to speak up and be publicly vulnerable challenges those racist media myths about black masculinity.
When my assault happened, quite honestly, I probably would have been laughed out of the police station.
It's not unusual for police officers or other authority figures to be shown engaging in forms of dark comedy that involve the sexual violation of men. Procedural-style dramas, in particular, frequently depict law enforcement officials threatening male suspects with rape as a way to get them to talk.
Do you have any idea what it's like in Sing Sing for a guy with your limitations? You were gonna be the poster boy for Bitch of the Month.
Money, you know how to play getting the dice? Nope. Here's how it goes. Your celly rolls the dice. 9. That's many days you get to play his girlfriend.
Prison guard is an inmate?
I hear they make you prom queen, and every night is prom night. You talk now, and we'll make sure you're not put in with the general population.
When I get to see the look of love in a meat wrangler's eye the day I make some spoiled rich kid his new celly.
Look on the bright side. In prison, you won't have to pay for dates.
Writers seem to love these extrajudicial taunts and use them as a source of Schadenfreude.
What? Schadenfreude. It's German for when you feel good because your enemy's anus has been violated. Ooh.
The quips are designed to elicit a satisfied snicker from viewers at seeing the bad guys squirm.
What's up? Could be staring at a felony. Or you could be sharing a cell with this fella right here. You'd like that, would you? See there, you're already making friends.
For some reason, Denzel Washington has a lot of dialogue to this effect in his filmography.
This time next week, I'll be sucking down pina coladas in a hot tub with 6 girls named Amber and Tiffany.
More like taking a shower with 2 guys named Jamal and Jesus, if you know what I mean. And here's the bad news. That thing you're sucking on, it's not a pina colada.
So you better have some divine intervention, buddy. You're gonna need it. You better have some KY. You're gonna need it.
To a term of no less than 4 years in a federal pound-me-in-the-ass prison.
So why does this matter? Well, the harsh reality is that rape is one of the unofficial but widely sanctioned ways that criminal justice institutions punish undesirable prisoners, especially queer men, trans folks, and people with mental disabilities.
You know what this means, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Make no mistake, the powers that be allow prison rape to happen, sometimes through passive facilitation, and other times through direct participation. It's part of how the prison system maintains control over men's bodies and sexualities while they're incarcerated.
There's just one other thing I've got to check.
The type of police brutality as comedy that we've been talking about here isn't designed to critique or illuminate the widespread abuses of law enforcement. Even when police officers are shown as humorously incompetent, the jokes are still made at the expense of those being victimized. By and large, audiences accept these sadistic punchlines because of who the rape threats are directed at.
You know what happens to pretty boys like you who go up to the farm on statute charges?
We look at that. I got an 11.
As long as it's criminal suspects being victimized and likable authority figures doing the victimizing, then it's widely seen as criminals getting what they deserve.
Mulder!
You want to know about anarchy? You don't tell me where that other bum is, and I'll make sure you spend your prison time on your bigoted hands and knees putting a big smile on some convict's face.
What? He's saying tell the whole story. I'll train your ass to be an entrance. I know brothers inside to tear your guts up fucking you stupid.
When it's a cop drama, the lead characters are generally presented as tough guys, or occasionally tough gals, who are being tough on crime.
And when he comes for you, in the middle of the night, when you're least expecting it, you do me a favor. Play along.
This is often referred to as reciprocal punishment or karmic justice.
Nice petite white boy like you in a federal penitentiary. Let me just put it this way. I don't think you'll be able to remain anal retentive for very long.
It's a morally abhorrent but widely accepted idea, best encapsulated by the idiom, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Don't you feel kind of bad for them?
Sure I feel lousy. For her. He's a murderer and he should pay for it.
With his life?
No, he should be doing 60 years in a prison, breaking rocks and making special friends with Roscoe the weightlifter.
Yikes, the quality of mercy is not Buffy.
Sometimes these karmic rape plotlines involve villains being sexually assaulted with a weapon. Or, alternatively, raped by a large male animal. The word for this isn't justice. The word for it is revenge.
You know where you're going, they screw people in a very uncomfortable place.
Now, it should go without saying that rape can never, ever be a form of justice. When media frames the sexual assault of men, even bad men, as getting what they deserve, it perpetuates a culture of rape acceptance.
Subpoenas, not some penis. And that means you could go to jail.
Where you could get some penis.
It also makes prison rape seem inevitable, which it's not. There are solutions to the prison rape epidemic, namely, keep people out of prison, which means working towards mass de-incarceration through a combination of decriminalization and a focus on education and rehabilitation programs instead of locking people up. But with every casual prison rape joke, it makes those goals more difficult to achieve.
I'm trying to talk about sexual assault. It's not like that's a new topic in comedy. We've had rape jokes forever, but it's just like those jokes have usually been like, rape! That's the full joke. And an audience, because that's a taboo word, will have a response. And then that comic will hear that response, ooh, I've done a good joke.
As comedians like Cameron Esposito and Lindy West have pointed out, it is possible to tell jokes about rape from a survivor's perspective, where the punchlines target rape culture. But that's not what's happening in the movies and TV shows we've been looking at here.
Oh, no. I'm actually getting married
Load
tonight,
him
so
up.
I can't.
As we've seen again and again, the targets of these jokes are the victims of sexual assault and harassment.
Get ready, because here it comes. Here, what comes?
Which is why when actors, writers, or directors try to defend this type of comedy from criticism, their arguments don't hold any water.
Anytime you're doing any comedy,
somebody's going to do
somebody's
this.
Going to
What
go.
are they going to do? Do the face.
Oh, my word. But that's kind of what we do. We provoke, we prod, we also show a mirror up to what's already existing out there. You know?
The idea that these comedians are somehow bravely pushing boundaries or fearlessly transgressing taboos by telling prison rape jokes is pure self-delusion.
So now here comes the guy that wants to rub your face. Oh, I like his hair. He's breathing on you. That's disgusting. But guess what? You can look forward to 10 years of it.
When Will Ferrell or Kevin Hart or Adam Sandler or any other famous comedian amplifies dismissive and toxic ideas about rape in their comedy routines, it's not meant to raise awareness, and it's certainly not designed to hold up a mirror and give voice to rape survivors.
Let me guess, you dropped the soap. Please take that out of my ass.
They're acting out these rape jokes because it's an easy way to get cheap laughs.
Hey, Charlie.
And the price of those laughs is the further trivialization of rape in a culture that already doesn't take survivors seriously.
Okay. So you were violated by two people while you were under the gas. So what? You're single.
While at the same time, as we've talked about, reinforcing a whole bunch of regressive ways of thinking around race, masculinity, sexuality, and criminal justice. Beyond that, these jokes also give people permission to continue silencing and shaming survivors.
Brian, if you don't mind, we'll start thinking up our prison rape jokes immediately.
If Hollywood writers and comedians really want to break taboos and push boundaries, they could try treating survivors of sexual assault with a measure of dignity and empathy, because that would be a guaranteed way to shock their audience. Thanks for watching. Now I know this can be a difficult and intense topic, so I've left a bunch of resources and additional information in the text below this video. I want to thank all of my script advisors for their invaluable feedback in writing this episode, especially Reverend Jason Lydon, who founded an organization called Black and Pink, which is dedicated to supporting queer prisoners. You can find that link in the description below as well. In part 2 of this discussion, we'll shift focus and talk about media where women assaulting men is played for laughs. If you'd like to support my video series, you can do that over on Patreon, and I've left a link to PayPal in the description below. See you next time. This episode comes with a very strong content warning for frank discussion of, and media clips involving, rape and sexual harassment. As we saw in our previous episode on this topic, there's a pervasive and long-standing pattern in Hollywood of playing the sexual assault of men for laughs.
Oh, no, no, dear. No, no, no. No, no, dear. No.
Oh.
Just relax and we'll get along fine.
You guys, it's raping me! It's
I got molested by D!
What? This is about to get weird.
Let's relax for a second. Let's just stop.
These type of jokes are a staple in gross-out style comedies.
When's the last time you Purelled that thing?
On television sitcoms.
Now I'm gonna grind you like a fresh cup of coffee.
And in certain animated TV shows.
No, I'm abstinent! This is an affront to the Lord! No!
In part 1, we noted that when men are sexually assaulted, it's usually done by other men. Which is why our first video focused on male perpetrators. Now, if you haven't seen that one yet, I recommend doing so before continuing to watch this one.
Julia, you needed to see me. Oh, shit!
In this episode, we're going to take a detailed look at the less frequent, but no less troubling pattern in comedy.
We have a seat, Dale?
Do I have to?
Where men are sexually assaulted by women.
We'll see about that.
You think rape is funny?
No, I think it's awful. Unless it's a woman raping a man. That's inherently funny.
Raph, are you just gonna sit here and let this happen?
Just like we saw with humor about male perpetrators, humor invoking female perpetrators can involve a wide range of non-consensual behaviors.
Whoa, Mama!
Shh, no.
Help me!
Quiet.
Whoa!
Nothing happened.
Oh!
You're fine, you liked it.
Neighbors!
From casual jokes about sexual harassment.
You're a shooting star, and I want to go for a ride.
God, I'm so afraid right now.
To punchlines about rape.
Last night, I sat on his nocturnal erection while he was sleeping. Okay, in some cultures, that would be considered rape.
Yeah, pretty much in every culture.
Oops.
And in many cases, the so-called joke
You did all this while I was unconscious?
Yep.
is the act of sexual assault itself.
That's my favorite.
Rape. What? Rape. That's a rape. This is what raping is. You're a raper and you've raped me. That's a rape! Rape!
Oh, just relax there, Jodie Foster.
Please, I'll give you whatever you want. Please, anything you want.
Anything I want?
Occasionally, these comedic scenarios will involve supernatural rape or sexual extortion. But even in those cases, the assault is treated in a conspicuously flippant way. There's no lasting trauma, and the incident is rarely, if ever, mentioned again.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh!
Part of why these jokes are presented as harmless, light-hearted fun is because there's a widespread myth in our culture that men always want sex.
Great movie.
And therefore, men can't be raped. At least not by women.
Relax, baby. It's over.
This is, of course, false. Men can be raped.
He's a bit down in the dumps. He's been raped. Yeah? He got raped.
A woman just continued to have sex with me after I'd asked her to stop, that's all.
Sounds like you were raped to me, Mark. Classic case.
She didn't force anything up my bum. That's why it's not rape.
Our society, by and large, tends to dismiss, or at least refuse to seriously acknowledge the fact that men can sometimes be targets of sexual assault.
You know what? I know he's still alive because his manhood is knocking on my lady door.
And that women can sometimes be perpetrators.
All right, but yeah, I think that's either way. I can't molest you, you know, it doesn't work that way because I'm a woman and you're the man, right? Back me up, girlfriend.
Actually, a woman can sexually harass and even rape a man. Is that what happened here?
Whenever this fact is brought up, it's met with confused questions like, how is that even possible? Well, the rape survivors organization RAINN addresses that question directly, stating, in no way does an erection invite unwanted sexual activity. Normal, physiological responses do not in any way imply that you wanted, invited, or enjoyed the assault. I think that's worth reiterating. Normal, physiological responses do not ever equal consent. And that applies to everyone, regardless of gender. Now, to be clear, what makes this type of comedy insidious is not that it presents rape or harassment as a good thing. In fact, the over-the-top inappropriateness of the behavior
This is going inside of you.
is what's supposed to be funny.
Oh my God! Why does this keep happening to me? Oh, just relax. No!
No, what makes these jokes insidious is they present the sexual assault of men as something that's ultimately harmless.
I think I've just been raped.
What's that? Raped? Here you go, mate. That'll take the edge off.
This is so ingrained in our culture that even as you watch some of the clips in this video, you may catch yourself questioning whether or not some of the examples are really that bad, or if they really amount to sexual harassment or sexual assault. And if those questions do pop into your head, I just ask you to keep in mind that all of these punchlines are built around non-consensual interactions.
Oh, okay.
Whether that be an unwanted kiss, a surprise butt grab, an instance of sexual harassment, or an act of rape. Unlike comedy about men assaulting other men, when men are assaulted by women, the joke is nearly always built around a gender-flipped role reversal, and hinges on the perceived social absurdity therein. In order to better understand what I mean by that, it's useful to examine this trope through the prism of Hollywood history. So let's turn back the clock 70 years and take a look at a 1949 musical called Neptune's Daughter. While you may not have heard of this movie, you've almost certainly heard the film's Academy Award-winning musical number.
I simply must go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Baby, It's Cold Outside has come under increasing scrutiny in recent years. And for good reason. The male lead refuses to take no for an answer.
Hoping that you drop in.
Very nice.
I'll hold your hand.
The song is what's referred to as a mouse and wolf duet, in which the man takes on the role of predator and the woman the role of prey.
So really, I'd better skirt.
Despite the obvious display of sexual coercion, the whole scenario is played off as romantic flirtation.
Baby, it's bad out there.
Say, what's in this drink?
The reason I bring this up is because there's a second, less famous version of Baby It's Cold Outside performed in the same movie.
Really can't
But
stay.
baby, it's cold outside.
Only this time, the gender roles are reversed. And unlike the sincere version, this rendition is played entirely for laughs.
They're just like
My mother will start to worry.
Beautiful, what's your...
The punchline here is rooted in the unexpected shock of seeing a woman taking on the customary male role of predator. while the unsuspecting man is forced into the traditionally female role of prey.
I really can't
Oh,
stay.
baby, don't hold out,
Oh, but
baby.
it's
Just in case the gender flip joke wasn't clear enough already, in his attempt to get away from her advances, the flustered guy ends up accidentally wearing women's clothing. This same role reversal framework provides the comedic hook in a wide range of media
Hurry, Harry.
that makes light of sexual assault and sexual harassment.
Ah, mon chéri, it is an affaire d'amour, is it not?
Some classic Looney Tunes cartoons starring Pepe Le Pew end on the same gender-flipped punchline.
Madame, control yourself. Your conduct is unseemly. Control yourself. Madame!
People are looking at us. Compose yourself. Stop!
Predatory interactions in older movies, TV shows, or cartoons were often less explicit than what we're used to seeing in contemporary media. But the pattern of gender-flipped comedy has remained remarkably consistent right up to the modern day, and it repeats more times in more media than we have room to mention.
Save your strength, it's gonna be a lengthy night.
Help! This crazy tomato's raping me!
Good one.
Something just snapped. I reached into my purse and pulled out a tampon. Then I pulled out my hot sauce.
At first glance, these role reversals might seem like a subversive form of poetic justice,
I shoved it up his ass.
Oh, I don't hear you laughing now.
especially when they're employed to teach a chauvinistic man a lesson. Like in the 2005 hit comedy Wedding Crashers.
Tattoo on the lower back. Might as well be a bullseye.
Vince Vaughn plays a sleazy guy
What the fuck is going on?
who is subsequently sexually assaulted multiple times.
I'm gonna make all your fantasies come true.
But this is not fan.
And each of those assaults is framed as him getting a taste of his own medicine.
We kind of had a crazy night.
Yeah, did we? I don't really remember.
Even though you seemed like a sure thing, I really wanted to make sure.
When the victim is a villain, or some other scumbag character, it's not uncommon for sexual assault to be framed as him getting what he deserves. The problem with this karmic justice framing is that, as we all should have learned in kindergarten, two wrongs do not make a right.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Revenge is not justice, and no one deserves to be raped, not even really bad people.
I've got a headache. I've got a headache.
Where are you going? Oh, bugger! I was that close. I touched it.
Beyond a failure of basic morality, there's another disturbing implication embedded in many of these scenes.
Oh. Lick it! Lick it! Oh. Lick it! I'll break your finger! Okay, okay.
Because in order for the gender-flipped joke to really land, the audience must first buy into certain gendered assumptions.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's a finger.
Just
You
a tip.
can't- the
That's
tip
it.
is already too
That's
much.
it.
Not okay. Not okay.
Namely, that men are naturally supposed to be sexually aggressive and women sexually submissive. Otherwise, it wouldn't seem so absurdly funny to see those gendered expectations
Good show, old boy.
suddenly reversed. We expect to see men in predatory roles, because domination and control, especially over women, is a central value in patriarchal masculinity.
I had a really great time, but I should go.
This is why when male characters are depicted as being controlled by women,
Wait! Hey!
instead of the other way around, it's often presented as the most demeaning thing imaginable for a man.
Last night, Lois was the man. Good Lord. I just want you to know, Brian, I didn't cry.
Hey, hot stuff. I've got a competition tomorrow. I could use a good luck snuggle.
I'd rather talk about our feelings. Did you?
Let's do it.
Listen, my bulky flower. I have an early date tomorrow.
I wasn't asking.
The toxic idea that it's the ultimate humiliation for men to be treated like women is then explicitly reinforced through the popular comic motif of women raping men with dildos.
Stop.
These jokes are almost inevitably followed by a walking funny punchline in the next scene. Another reason why role reversal jokes seem so unexpected is because in the real world, women are far less likely to commit sexual violence. Which means that unlike women, being preyed upon isn't a clear and present threat in the daily lives of most men. According to the Department of Justice, 80% of juvenile rape victims are girls, while 90% of adult rape victims are women. And, as I've already mentioned, when men are sexually assaulted, it's primarily done by other men.
Baby, I'm gonna butter your bread.
Now, statistics don't tell the whole story, but the numbers do tell us that adult men being sexually assaulted by women is relatively rare compared to the reverse. But it does happen, and sexual assault should always be taken seriously, regardless of the frequency of the crime or the gender of the perpetrator. As Terry Crews reminded us during his Senate testimony, sexual assault is not really about sex. It's about power.
But what he was effectively telling me while he held my genitals in his hand was that he held the power, that he was in control.
And since we live in a world that is still largely male-dominated, we unconsciously expect people in positions of power or authority to be men. Which is why gender-flipped scenarios where women hold power over men are so commonly mined for absurdist humor.
Time, snoo! Can't we just cuddle? No! No. What?
In most of the examples we've looked at in this video, the jokes hinge on unbalanced power dynamics.
No means please don't.
Whether it's a boss sexually harassing an employee,
yeah, this is gonna work out just fine.
A teacher abusing a student, a sober person assaulting someone who's intoxicated,
Hands on your knees, please, sir.
or a police officer accosting a suspect.
Sir, I'm gonna need you to look back at it.
These scenes are fundamentally about power and control. And that would be true regardless of the gender or sexuality of the characters involved.
I'm sorry. I seem to have dropped my pen. Would you mind bending over and picking it up?
Yes, of course.
Some comedians, like Melissa McCarthy and Tina Fey, like to use gender-flipped scenarios
Clumsy me.
to try to raise awareness about predatory men.
Slower this time.
These punchlines rest almost entirely on the supposed absurdity of seeing a woman sexually harassing a man in the same ways that men have long harassed women in the workplace.
Come on, if I did this to you, I'd get in so much trouble.
Not
what are you
with
doing?
me.
Come on.
You'd get in trouble with your pants off.
All right.
But however well-intentioned these attempts at role reversal satire may be, they ultimately fall flat.
That wasn't sexual harassment. They wanted it.
Because even if they were somehow successful in highlighting men's predatory behavior, they do so by reinforcing the idea that the sexual abuse of men is inherently funny and absurd.
No, you can't. I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. That is not, no, stop it. I can't do that.
Gender-flipped comedy can be an effective tool in illuminating gender bias, but not when it comes to sexual assault or sexual harassment.
You want to get back in that restroom and not rest?
No.
Uh-oh. What's that?
I gotta get back to my seat.
Because the punchlines still leave us laughing at victims.
Morning, sexy.
dog! Now, Gina, you know this restraining order I have on you. It specifically covers not honking my bitch tits.
Does it cover this?
And comedy making fun of survivors is comedy that throws rocks down at those without power in a traumatic situation. You may have noticed some suspicious patterns emerging in the clips we've been looking at thus far, as enjoying the assault.
It sounds like sexual harassment.
Robbie, there's a fine line between sexual harassment and something awesome.
Or at least being deeply conflicted about it.
I don't think you should be in here.
In which case, the guy's internal struggle with himself to try to resist this woman's advances then becomes the focus of the joke.
I don't think my girlfriend would like you sitting on me.
I think you like me sitting on you. In fact, I know you do.
Okay, but that's not the point.
Shut up, Kelso. This is your lucky day.
The only real threat he faces is the threat to his own self-control.
Those are my pants. No.
Rape scenes like these are carefully constructed and filmed as sexual fantasies.
Concealed weapon.
Where?
Right here.
Designed to be vicariously arousing for presumed straight male audiences.
The only question is, will he actually use it?
And that's true even if the perpetrator is framed as being too controlling, too domineering.
You want me to blow on it?
No, I don't need any blowing.
Or otherwise unhinged.
I'm not wearing any panties.
Oh.
That's right.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Now, we're focusing on comedies in this episode, but I should note that even in dramas, where a conventionally attractive female aggressor is clearly written to be the villain,
Got something I want.
Listen, hold on, boundaries. Flag on the play. Okay, I'm very ticklish.
We have needs, Sam. Relax.
Jeez.
her acts of sexual assault or sexual harassment are still framed as an illicit sexual fantasy for straight male viewers. And the male character is never really presented as being completely powerless in most of these situations.
I'm not letting you out of this room until you feel.
It's also instructive to look at how other men react to these sexy assaults.
Claire's mom just made me grab her Hooters.
Well, snap out of it. What, a hot older woman made you feel her cans? Stop crying like a little girl.
Inevitably, other men express admiration or envy.
What were they like anyway? They look pretty good. Are they real?
My man.
And even congratulate the male victim for being assaulted.
I think she has to rape me. Oh, yeah? Did she really? Whoa, good for you.
This is especially true when media depicts a hot teacher taking advantage of an adolescent male student. Despite the extreme power imbalance inherent in these scenarios, the sexual abuse is nonetheless framed as a way for young, shy, or awkward boys to gain self-confidence and achieve manhood status in the eyes of their peers. The only consistent exception to this rule are the rare pieces of media about the molestation of very young boys. But otherwise, when conventionally attractive older women prey on teenage boys, it's almost always presented as tantalizing and ultimately harmless. And that holds true, incidentally, in both comedies and dramas.
Is this really happening?
It's happening right now in my office.
Media like this perpetuates the myth that men can't really be violated by women because they're always willing anyway. And that idea that all men want sex all the time, or at least should want sex all the time, is an especially harmful one.
Does that inspire you?
First and foremost, because it's not true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some men may not be interested in sex.
No, still not getting it.
Some men may not be interested in sex with women.
Now I want you to throw me on the bed and have your beastie way with me.
And some men may prioritize emotional connections or lasting companionship over physical intimacy.
Is that the calm? I think it is. Excuse me, I've got to get to ops.
Secondly, the myth that real men should want sex all the time creates an enormous amount of social pressure on men to conform to that expectation.
Nastiest shit you've ever done. I'm talking about nasty.
Wow. So many stories are running through my head right now.
So much so that the myth can become something of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Dude, are you gay?
No, I'm not gay. No, I've borked a lot of women in my day.
You borked?
Wherein some men fear being ridiculed or losing social status with their peers if they don't perform some version of the sex-obsessed guy. At this point, you may have noticed another troubling pattern that occurs whenever the female perpetrator isn't presented as conventionally attractive.
She's got me. She's really clamping down.
In these scenarios, sexual assault is played for gross-out humor.
Lloyd, I think that was her grand gina.
These jokes fall under a trope called the abhorrent admirer. And the associated visual gags carry with them a whole host of regressive ideas about gender. On the one hand, the punchlines make fun of male survivors by framing them as weak, pathetic, or emasculated for being assaulted.
We've never done this before, but we can take our time, darling.
On the other hand, the jokes target women by presenting them as too fat, too ugly, too masculine, or too old to be desirable.
Hey. You know, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
Being bad seldom is.
I think it's worth taking a moment to break down exactly what messages are being sent by these scenes.
Oh, for the love of God, no!
On one level, the underlying assumption embedded in these jokes ties the value of women directly to their sexual desirability to straight men.
Just relax. I'll handle this.
And then ridicules the very idea that any woman who doesn't meet impossible Hollywood standards of beauty
Oh, God! Oh, God! Oh, no!
would dare to express any kind of sexuality at all. In sharp contrast to what we saw earlier, other male characters inevitably react to these unsexy assaults by ridiculing the victim for being assaulted by a woman deemed unattractive.
Reba!
You don't know because you weren't there.
Ugh, thank God I wasn't there. It's disgusting. It's revolting. You're nasty. How was she?
This is another aspect of that larger media pattern that conflates women expressing their own sexual desires
Oh, shut up and take me!
with acts of malice, deception, or outright villainy.
I say you let me have him first.
Women who are presented as sexually self-assured
Grammy!
in ways that aren't about male fantasy wish fulfillment are turned into a joke and framed as predators. Doubly so if they happen to be women of color. Over the past decade or so, we've seen more and more comedy writers adding a veneer of self-aware meta-commentary to their dialogue, wherein they ironically call attention to a social issue.
Gross. You were 14. So technically, you were raped.
It wasn't rape. You can't rape a guy.
Huh?
However, the final punchlines in these productions nearly always undermine any social messaging the script may have had.
Hey, Hoser, remember when I raped you in the library?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. That's not part of the whole thing.
It's very disturbing. It's very avant-garde.
You did the raping, right?
No, he was drunk, but his thing wasn't.
How do you rape a dude?
More often than not, meta-ironic humor
I thought he would like it. I thought all guys did.
We do.
ends up reinforcing rather than challenging the status quo.
A million guys would kill to be raped by you.
Oh, could you shut up already?
Shows like South Park, 30 Rock, and Always Sunny in Philadelphia have been particularly guilty of trying to have their cake and eat it too.
I wasn't raped.
Or, I guess in this case, trying to have their rape jokes and critique them too.
And the woman in no way looked like Rick Moranis.
She totally did. I remember her. Remember her? Yeah.
No, dog. I wouldn't even sleep with her.
As I've pointed out before, simply acknowledging something is not the same thing as meaningful criticism.
Now, who is the teacher? What's his name? Well, it isn't a guy teacher, it's a woman. A woman? Yeah, she's having sex with a boy. Nice. Nice. What? We need to track this student down and give him his Luckiest Boy in America medal right away.
In any discussion about the sexual assault of men or boys, you're almost guaranteed to hear the term double standard thrown around.
That is a complete double standard.
No, it's one standard for men, one standard for women. That's two standards.
Socially speaking, a double standard is defined as a rule or principle that is unfairly applied to different people or groups in society. When it comes to sexual assault, we've already seen what can be described as a double standard reflected in a handful of clips.
Enough! I am aware that a lot of people think that this young man is not really a victim, but someone that's living the ultimate teenage boy's fantasy.
Those where men or boys are applauded for being assaulted by a woman if she's deemed attractive enough by other men.
When your classmates became aware of your relationship with Miss Luna, what happened at school?
I just remember giving thousands of high fives.
Meanwhile, women are almost universally blamed and shamed regardless of the circumstances.
Oh my God, check out this picture. Frank, is that you?
And this is where some misunderstandings related to the double standard come in.
Well done, sir.
Guys, a teacher preying on a student is wrong.
Yeah.
If the teacher is male and the student is female, what happened to Frank is awesome. Standing ovation.
Because, while it's true that the sexual assault of men is not taken seriously, that doesn't mean the sexual assault of women is taken seriously. In fact, most of the time, female survivors are dismissed or simply not believed, and male attackers are rarely held accountable.
Just a couple of pats.
The sad reality is that our society doesn't take the sexual assault or abuse of anyone all that seriously.
So he rapes them.
In fact, some of the same movies and TV shows that include rape jokes about men also include rape jokes about women.
Mo's Tavern.
Hello, Mo. Your sister's being raped. Is that one?
When we see the sexual assault of men played for laughs in media, it is not evidence of some sort of anti-male bias. What it is evidence of is the same culture of blame and shame that female survivors deal with on a daily basis. So it's perhaps not surprising that many of those who have been most vocal in pushing back against the media pattern we've been discussing have been women.
Sexual assault of men is a real problem and not a joke, despite the way we tend to talk about it.
The truth is that sexual assault jokes targeting men and sexual assault jokes targeting women are really two sides of the same coin.
And this morning, I made love to my wife. And she was still asleep, so I didn't have to be gentle.
That's one of the most upsetting things I have ever imagined.
Are you sure? Think about it again.
As we've seen, both types of jokes prop up regressive ideas about gender, and both throw rocks down at the vulnerable and the victimized.
Yes! Stop! Yes! Stop! Yes! Stop! Stop! Yes! Stop! Damn it! Stop! Yes!
When the sexual assault or harassment of men is turned into a joke, it not only trivializes men's experiences, it also contributes to the trivialization of rape in general. Because when male survivors are mocked and ridiculed, it makes it easier and more acceptable for our culture as a whole to shame and dismiss survivors of any gender. Thanks for watching. Now, I know this can be a difficult and intense topic, so I've left some resources and additional information in the text below this video. In the coming months, I'll be producing a number of new video essays, including one on the myth that boys don't cry, another on the media pattern wherein men can only find redemption in death, and finally, I'll be doing an analysis of colonialism in modern board games. Now, if you like these long-form video essays, please consider going over to Patreon and helping to fund this project there. I've also left a link to PayPal in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.
In the summer of 1988, I turned 17 years old. On the day of my 17th birthday, the recruiter came to my house and helped my mom sign the paperwork giving me an emancipation so I could join the Army 2 weeks later. The summer of 1991, I was sent to Fort Ord to be a soldier in the 7th Infantry Division Light. Hua light fighters. The Air Mobile Light Infantry Division concept was something that suited me very well. I was very much more of a field soldier than a garrison soldier. I really truly enjoyed my time at Fort Ord, and I served well and honorably. And I had one incident with one bad soldier that came near to ruining the whole experience for me. I returned to the barracks after a very long field exercise. We'd been out at a training camp for about 6 weeks. We came back and we threw the usual barracks party. I had a number of people in my room and spilling over into my room. We were drinking quite a lot. Later on into the evening, I started getting tired and I started shushing people out of my room. I got out just about everybody. You know, most people will just, you ask them to leave and they'll leave. And one soldier wouldn't go. And he was actually my squad leader. So I didn't, want to be an asshole to him and, get in trouble later for having, said something that I shouldn't have. So, I asked him a number of times to leave, and he wouldn't. And I kept trying to tell him to leave. I finally, at one point, I climbed into my bunk, which was, it was a very, very small room. I mean, I was in E4. I think I probably had, if I had to guess it right now, I think it's probably maybe at best a 10 by 10 room. And I got over and I climbed into my bed and I pulled the covers over and I said, I'm going to sleep. And somehow he acted like that was an invitation to have sex. I yelled at him. I was, appalled. What are you doing this for? What's going on? And this is somebody I'd been serving with for a year. He was my buddy. I I didn't want to get in trouble with him. I didn't want him to get in trouble. I just wanted him to go home and go to sleep. And I got up again to go walk to the door, and before I got to the door, I heard there's a sound that still freaks me out, and it's if you ever hear the sound of a rubber shoe on a very highly polished tile floor, that little squeak, that noise always puts me on edge. That noise does for me what bullets and bombs exploding, cars backfiring, dogs barking, what so many of those other things do for other people. And I heard this squeak of a shoe on the floor, and he put his hands around my throat from behind. At some point, I don't know if I lost consciousness or if I just don't remember hitting the ground. I don't know how I got onto the ground, but the next thing I can clearly remember is he's got his arm and he's holding it across my chest so that I can't even barely breathe. He's holding himself up on his arm, and all I can smell is sickly sweet wild turkey and sweat and I don't know, honestly, if I ever yelled no or if I could even yell anything. I can't remember being even really able to breathe because I felt like I couldn't get even a single. And I can breathe now, but at some point I tore an abdominal muscle in my side trying to push him off. But at that point, I was drunk, I couldn't breathe. He raped me. He got what he wanted, and when he was done, I laid on the floor for a few minutes, and my shorts were one leg down around my ankle, and I couldn't move, and I couldn't even breathe yet. And when I finally could, I did the only thing I could do. I put my shorts back on and I stood up and I started to run out of the room. And he says, if you tell anybody about this, I'll tell them that you're a dyke. You know, if you've ever served in a situation where sexual orientation is more important than sexual assault, you'll understand. And if you haven't, then you'll never understand why I didn't want to throw away my career, why I didn't want to throw away everything I knew. I grew up in the Army. I was so young when I went in, it was my life. And when he did that, he took away the joy that I found in serving my country. He took away the pride that I had in being myself. I would say emotionally after the rape, I shut down. It was really hard for me to trust anybody, especially since the person I thought was my best friend told me it was my fault. You know, if you don't trust yourself, if you're questioning your own judgment and blaming yourself for things that aren't indeed your fault, then there's not much to do. I spent overnight one night in a hospital in Atlanta because I told my best friend that I was thinking about killing myself with a bunch of morphine suppositories that a friend who had had cancer, who had been living with me, had left in my house. So, you know, in retrospect, death by morphine suppository is really a very silly way to go. And in truth, it was probably more a plea for help than anything. But it seemed like the easiest and least painful and least messy way I could think of to off myself. And yeah, morphine suppositories, that's it, pretty much. Yep. It's a living fucking nightmare getting rated for military sexual trauma. It is a living nightmare. You have to turn around. You have to detail everything that happened to you. You have to explain why you didn't report it. You have to explain anybody that you would have told. And if they still don't decide that that's enough information, they won't rate you. And if you appeal it, they still won't rate you. And if you appeal it again, they might eventually say, oh, well, since you have all the symptoms of PTSD, but we can't say you have PTSD, instead, we'll just turn around and we'll say you have an anxiety disorder. Because, because you're just a little anxious. You might be anxious because you got raped, but, you know, that doesn't really matter in the VA world. That doesn't matter in the military world. What matters is that we've decided what your label is. That's what we're sticking to. And, yeah, you can fight it all you want, but that's what you get. The system is geared towards attackers and not towards victims. For too long, we've blamed ourselves. We've blamed, you know, the system. We've blamed people that put us into boxes that they expect us to behave a certain way, people that won't report things for us, people that treat us as if we're the guilty party instead of the victim. You know, for too long, all this has gone on, and silence is the biggest accomplice. As long as we keep our silence, this continues to happen. And that's why I'm talking. That's why more people are talking.